Welcome to the Dads of Football YouTube channel. I'm Jeremy. That's Josh. We are talking the worst NFL drafts from a team, three teams each. And, you know, again, I said in the last video, I thought overall the teams drafted really well. So I'm being really nitpicky here when I'm talking about the worst. But again, I'm looking at
Yeah.
names from the top to the bottom. And that's not to say that the players that these teams drafted aren't good. It's just that you may have had like one real name and then a bunch of other reaches. And that's why I'm not crazy about them. So I'm going to start it off. I've got three names on my list. The first one's going to be a surprise. The San Francisco 49ers. I was not happy
Oh,
with the
here we
San
go.
Francisco 49ers. Their first receiver, first pick, Ricky Pearsall. Hey, looks like a solid receiver. Wouldn't have been a first rounder on my draft grade.
No.
So I was kind of surprised that they reached and took him. Going from there, you could just look at every name on the list, and it's just kind of like the name doesn't match with the round to me in many cases. So
Right.
I'm looking at their corner, Renardo Green out of Florida State. I mean, really, as a second rounder, I don't think you needed to take him there. I think you probably could have got him in the next round. Dominic Pooney out of Kansas. Uh, there's just really not a whole lot of name recognition other than Isaac Guerrero, who I actually think is a pretty good pick at 4, solid running
Yep.
back, and Jacob Cowing at 4. So their fourth round on the bottom end looked good, but the rest just kind of look like guys that are going to kind of fill up the depth chart and aren't going to be real starters. Yes, Pearsall might crack the starting lineup depending who's there at receiver, but I don't think he's ever going to be a true number one for them. To me, at best, he's more of a third receiver, and a first rounder on a third receiver is a lot. I'll say this: Jacob Cowing at 4 could end up being better than Ricky Pearsall at 1. That's what I'm seeing there. And if I can say that, then I'm not really impressed with your draft. So that's why I put them up there. The next one, to no surprise here, would be the Raiders. And again, I thought the Raiders got some good players. I mean, they got the best tight end in the draft, but they didn't need to take him. Just looking at the names, again, there's some names there that I like. Tommy Eichenberg out of Ohio State and Dylan Lobb. That's a good 5th and 6th round pick. I like those two names there. But again, if the part that I'm most excited about is your 5th and 6th round pick, then I
Yeah.
don't think you did a good job 1 through 4. So that kind of gets me there. And then last but not least, I was debating and going back and forth on these. Between the Bills and the Browns. I'm going to go with the Browns. Again, there's no real, oh, geez, I can't believe they did that. But at the same time, looking at their top 2, Mike Hall, again, name recognition, reach at number and in the first round, or I'm sorry, in the second round. He got a lot of love because of his physicals, but at the same time wasn't as productive that I would have liked him to be. So I wasn't crazy about Mike Hall. He'd be more of a third rounder guy for me. And Zach Zinter, solid guard, probably will end up being a starter, but he's not the kind of guy that I think is going to really, blow your socks off there. So they didn't have a first round pick. So that's something that is hard to kind of compensate for. But if you look at rounds 5, 6, 7, um, they really didn't get guys that I thought were kind of those hidden gems. They got guys who were lucky to be drafted, in my opinion. So that's why that's why they're on my list. Who are you going with, Josh?
So this first one I feel like is an easy one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I've got to address it. Atlanta is mind-boggling to me. And I like Michael Penix Jr. and taking him in the 8th spot when it seemed like going in, they would have been able to trade down, still pick Michael Penix, and they get their quarterback and probably get another pick later on that they would have wasted, by the way, because then their second pick, and this is the one where again, maybe this is I'm cherry picking, maybe this is too easy, but you skip Jerzon Newton for Rook, and I'm gonna butcher his last name, Ahorhoru, at number 35 made no sense to me. Now, and to be honest with you, I don't think a single draft expert had any clue that that was coming because they also butchered his last name.
Uh-huh.
Braylon Trice, I don't really have any major issues with, but but felt like from that point forward, they go defense with Braden Dorlus from Oregon and then JD Bertrand from Notre Dame, both of which I feel like they could have gotten later. Jace McClellan from Alabama, I don't really have a significant issue with. I think they're looking for depth there in that round on the 186 pick, but it just to me seems like Atlanta is still not sure of the direction they're going to go. I get it. You want to bring in the magic of a left-hander. The last time you had a left-hander in house, they were a phenomenal team. I get it. He gets to learn from Kirk Cousins. You buy yourself a couple of years for the young man for him to get acclimated to the NFL. You've got tons of young weapons around. I understand all of that. Just seems like they could have done more with that pick. If nothing else, trade back and get another pick. This next one,
Oh, can I retort real quick? Can I retort real quick on Atlanta? I get where you're coming from. Again, the pick for Penix was very surprising, and we'll talk more about that one later. If they didn't have Kirk Cousins, we wouldn't be talking about it. That's the real issue there.
Agreed. 100%.
I get what you're saying with Rook, out of Clemson. I'm not even going to try to go for the last name, but he's not a bad player, but you're right.
Nope, not
if
a bad
you have
player.
Jay Newton, I would have rather taken him. Here's the thing that to me is the saving grace for them. Braylon Trice in round 3. I thought originally coming into the season, Braylon Trice could have been a first rounder. The fact that he fell to the 3rd round, I thought was a prize. I like Brandon Dorlus as well, and I like Jace McClellan. So those 3 names right there kept me from putting them at the bottom. So that's the one area that I saved them at. All right, number 2, who do you got?
Hey, real quick on Dorlus, he fits the mold of the Atlanta defensive lineman. So I get it. I get why they drafted him. It just so many things felt like they had other needs. Now, with that being said, the second one, and you're going to start noticing a theme here, and this probably is a little bit more so who I am. This is less about the entirety of this team's draft.
Okay.
And more about specifically the pick in that spot and what that room needed. Okay. So I love Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's going to be a terrific wide receiver. This is in no way saying he does not belong being drafted in the 1st or being the 23rd pick. That is not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going with this a little bit is you've got a 25-year-old Gabe Davis. You have a 27-year-old Christian Kirk. You have a 29-year-old Zay Jones. So I understand you want to get another young receiver. However, he's got some developing to do. He's got the size and speed. He's got the tracking ability, but his route running has been called to question. That is something that people are already aware of. He's in a pretty stacked room in terms of physical skills. It just seems like they could have gotten someone a little bit more polished later on. Again, probably not entirely fair. There's just this part of me that says Trevor Lawrence needs that added help of guarantee. Is there another route they could have gone in the 23rd spot? I think that is bare minimum arguable, because then they go in with the 48th pick and they go D-line and then they go DB. And then it's not until the 4th round they address an O-tackle. And then they go back to defense for 2 picks. And then they pick a running back and then a kicker and then another edge rusher. Now, admittedly, last year they had an explosive offense at times. It just felt like if you're going to continue to support Trevor Lawrence, go get a more polished project. Now, that being said, Trevor Lawrence is like 24 years old. So this is obviously the long game Jacksonville's playing. But so again, relative worst for me.
You know what? Worst. I'm going to say, I'm not crazy about their draft. Like, I didn't have a problem with Brian Thomas Jr., but you're right. They have other needs. So the fact that, they went out and got him, suspect. I like Mason Smith, but
yes,
I'm going to look at the depth of their draft, and I'm not crazy about it. I mean, you get a guy who's like the second string running back out of Texas as your 5th pick. I mean, there's no one there that really excites me. You get just in case Mason Smith goes down, let's put in the guy that played next to him, slide him over. I don't get it. Like, there were sexier names out there. They go up there as a pretty drab draft. And I see what you're saying there.
Not terrible. It seemed like they were going for a sexy name versus let's immediately help this. Now, this next one, again, this is sort of in favor of the quarterback. And again, I am going to admit, what the hell do I know? I am not an NFL quarterback. I am not an NFL GM. I just watch a lot of football and read about a lot of football. However, all the Chiefs games that I watched last year, I felt like I was seeing drops. All the
Mm.
Chiefs games last year, I remember thinking to myself, when are they going to get Patty Mahomes some surefire receivers? Now, Rashee Rice came on late. Rashee Rice looks like he could be the real thing. And obviously, I understand Travis Kelce is there. He's one of the major weapons. However, there's a part of me that in drafting an undersized receiver like Xavier Worthy, who, again, in the same way that Brian Thomas Jr. is probably going to be a dynamic receiver in 3-4 years, it just feels like the Chiefs are on a ride right now where every Super Bowl can be theirs. And I'm not saying they did not need to address the receiver room. However, their receiver room, as of this exact moment, consists of Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, Justin Ross, Kadarius Toney, who I won't even speak about because that guy's a train wreck, and then Xavier Worthy. And for me, then you look at the rest of their draft and they go, oh, tackle, tight end, DB, O line, DB, O line. When does, again, Travis Kelce's not getting any younger and he's had his time occupied a little bit lately with Tay Swift. There's just this part of me that wonders, when are they going to address the receiver room? Because at some point in time, Travis Kelce is going to be gone. That is going to be a concern of theirs. And I understand you could make the argument they addressed a tight end. They're bringing Xavier Worthy. He can be a gimmicky like player like Tyreek Hill. He's not
Mm.
Tyreek Hill.
He's not
Tyreek
Tyreek
Hill
Hill.
is he's a thick monster of a man who can go across the middle, who can go deep. Well, obviously, he's going to take your jet sweeps. That's not who Xavier Worthy is. So there is this part of me in all three of my worsts that I just feel like, one, are you doing a quarterback wrong? Could Penix have gone somewhere else and immediately jumped in? Or could you have drafted someone else to better situate the quarterback for what next year could be? So for me, that's a little bit where I'm at.
Out of the three teams you just said, I think Kansas City may have had the worst draft out of the three. If
I agree.
I really, I mean, we talked a little bit about it. I did not think Xavier Worthy was a first round wide receiver.
No.
The fact that he went over his teammate at Texas, Adonai Mitchell,
It's crazy.
surprised the heck out of me. So I was kind of scratching my head at that one too, because I saw, yes, there's a boatload of receivers out there. A guy that, again, that I didn't think would make the first round, Xavier Leggett, surprised me too. However, he was a guy that I thought honestly
Right.
could be a first round dude, that a guy that I could see is like, yeah, you know what? He could be a real star receiver. He just doesn't have enough publicity because he played at South Carolina. So
Right.
yeah, Xavier Worthy really confused me. You know, he reminds me, and it's never Kansas City hasn't been great about drafting wide receivers. They've been pretty
No.
piss poor. So he reminds me of John Baldwin.
Yes.
And if you remember,
Yes.
John Baldwin, first round out of Pittsburgh, they thought, oh, he's coming out of Pittsburgh. He's going to be
Right.
the next great that comes out of that school. And he was terrible. But that's what a lot of their receivers have been. And again, Rashee Rice, he had a good rookie season, but I don't ever think he's going to be a true number one receiver. And I don't think Xavier Worthy's ever going to be a
No.
true number one receiver either. You got two guys that are really two or three, and that's what they're going to be.
The bare minimum with Rashee Rice, at least you got a guy who's 6'1", who can, 6'1", 200 plus pounds, who's going to take a beating, who can go across the middle a little bit. I get all that. And again, like, don't come at me with Tyreek Hill is this freak athlete, just like Xavier Worthy. Tyreek Hill's 5'1", 190 pounds, or 5'10", 191 pounds. Xavier Worthy's all of like 5'9", 165. My thigh weighs more than Xavier Worthy. I get it. All that speed's exciting. You look at it and go, gimmick. What can we get out of him? We're looking
But
for
he's
a
straight
difference
line.
maker.
He's straight line speed. He's not side to
Straight
side.
line.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
it
he's
just
not Tyreek Hill. Yeah. In terms of
no.
athleticism. No.
So
So
to pick him with the 28th pick drives me a little bit crazy. They take Jared Wiley from TCU. What's
yeah.
that going to be? Their next Kelce? I just
No.
again
Nope.
disappointing.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think that is a really good team to put up there. So there you have it. Our worst. Next time we see you, we're going to come with a little bit of a surprise. So keep watching. And thank you. Make sure to like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.